Hello, world. I'm Chloë Kai Brown. I'm a holistic coach. And I've started this because I'm a survivor first and then a trauma survivor second. I say survivor first because I think that we all have struggles in life we have to get through, and getting to the other side is where our pride lies and our growth. So I really believe in finding where and how you flourish, and getting rid of the clutter that's stopping you from seeing that you're an amazing human being.
Hello and welcome to Obehi Podcast. I'm your host, Obehi A14, and I strongly believe that everyone has a story to share. Now let's get started with this episode.
Where I'm living is Orange County, California, and I grew up in a little town called Costa Mesa, and it's very near to the beach, and it's wedged in between two big cities. So San Diego and LA are both about an hour or two away, north and south. And I'm half Mexican, half white. The first school I went to, because I'm fair-skinned, and the first school I went to, I was the only blonde, light-skinned child in the classroom. And it was my most favorite. At that time, you don't see color, right? So I didn't know that. But then looking back at the school picture, it's very obvious as an adult. And then as a child, these were just my best friends. I had the best time. Plug for Pomona. And what was so amazing was the camaraderie that's in, surely they weren't all Mexican, but in, I would say, cultures that American culture can be a little cold. So the cultures that were represented in this classroom, very warm, so warm, in fact, that they nominated my friend and I, Ricky, to be the king and queen of the class. And before class, they would have us get in position at the door. I say before class, but I mean at break. And we would go running out first, and everybody would come charging behind us. So I just love where I'm from. It's the West Side. It's considered poor, but it's just the best side of town. Best food, best people. Couldn't get better. I loved it.
You said survivor first when you were introducing yourself just now.
Yes.
So what do you mean by that? Do you want to expatiate on that?
Well, a friend actually recently helped me clarify this, because he's gone through recovery. His name is Josh Sams. He's an artist. And I was preparing for this podcast today, being that it's important to do that and get your thoughts straight and in order. And I read it to him, my little short bio, and in it I said that I was a dancer, singer, songwriter, and a trauma survivor. He very quickly said, "No, survivor." And I said, "Oh, well, I like that. That felt good, firstly, like somatically, right?" And just I felt calm and settled. And I was like, "Oh, I like that." So I asked him, I inquired, I said, "Why?" Like, why a survivor? And he said, "Because that's just who you are. You make it through things." He goes, "Trauma links you to that permanently if you're using it as your main description." He goes, it links you to that permanently, to the past. He goes, "But you're somebody who moves forward and you move through things." So I thought, yeah, survivor first and trauma survivor second, because I can be proud of who I am now, where I've come. I'm a strong woman, albeit I am young, and I have a lot of life experience that it's not a burden anymore on my shoulders. It's actually what's uplifting me. It's like the bubbles under effervescence that are helping me rise in life.
All right. Now the second part of it, the trauma. Do you want to help us understand it, at least for the people that are listening to you? What did you suffer from that you recover from, that you are not a survivor. Help us understand what kind of trauma are you referring to?
Oh gosh, it's the whole kit and caboodle. So, if trauma, okay, trauma can be a hard word for some people. Um, there's life stress that we all go through every day, right? Work, raising ourselves up, focusing on self-development, raising children, which is just a whole bundle of nerves and life and then there's work and having a spouse or a romantic partner or being single. That's a whole lot of work too for various reasons. So I would say there's life stress and it's good and it's hard and it's exhilarating all at the same time. And then for people who might not know what trauma is more specifically, it's anything that causes you to shut down from who you are as a human being because somebody abused you, somebody neglected you, you didn't have safe people to talk to, any of those reasons. So in my life, trauma started very early. I had an absolutely in her heart an adoring mother, but she had very severe and serious chronic illness and mental health issues. Um, so for me, I felt, and with my personality, trying to make sure she was always had low stress for me, I was always feeling like I wasn't good enough, I was too much, I was too loud, uh, because I needed to be quiet. I wasn't funny, I wasn't enjoyable to be around. And it continued from there. There was very shameful Christian and Catholic religious ideas in our family, and I'm female, so that comes down heavy on women. I was sexually abused as a child. Then I had physical trauma when I had a spinal injury as a teenager, and then for about 10 years, I was pretty much housebound and isolated. So think COVID, think isolation, but for 10 years, pretty much almost zero access to friends and family for that time because I was so immunologically sensitive, light to fragrances, to all kinds of things, and I couldn't be around people because of their perfume, their hair conditioners, their deodorants. So it's been a complicated life. And now things are getting complicated in a good way as I've done the trauma recovery work. I like to call it trauma event.
Of course, you are working in it now because you are doing a holistic coaching, and of course, it's usually good that we don't just start by saying this is what I do. First of all, who are you? Where are you coming from? What is your background? So that is on the basis upon which we usually ask some of those questions here, so that by the time you give recommendation to people, you tell people, "Hey, do this or do that." You are saying it based on experience, based on what you know. It's not just because you just imagine it. All right. Now, you did
Yeah.
mention a very significant experiences there that you had when you were growing up as a young adolescent, as a child. Those abuse and those bad experience. So, which of them impacted you the more, and which of them do you find easy to talk about that we could spend some time on?
Oh, I would say the sexual abuse impacted me the most, because it just rips away your identity. Um, Shattered any self-esteem I think I was gonna have. Um, it was a family member. It was an older than me relative, and so you lose any sense of safety that you had in the world. And when people, yeah, so that would be the one. Well, in bringing it back to how do we help people who might be sensing this is coming on, let me address that I was very young, probably earlier, probably between 5 is the number that comes to mind, but it's so early that I don't really know how old I was. Um, he let's see. So you said, what happened and how can we help others avoid this? I would probably have to talk to parents now and say, be careful about sleepovers. No, if there are any children who seem, because it was another child, an older child, there are any children who seem disturbed or who have major behavioral issues. We're talking outside of things like autism disorder and ADHD, because those are mostly neurological. We're talking emotional disturbance. That's could be a child who's been abused themselves, sexually abused. And that's not a child you want your child spending time with, because anybody who's been sexually abused, most people see, I don't know why I have a personality where I just recoiled from the world. That's partly, I think, why I had, and I'm still recovering from, but why my physical conditions were so bad, my medical conditions. There's also just genetic factors to that. But whew, okay, my heart is really for children and for them having safe lives growing up. So this is touching me to have an opportunity to share like this. And I would say this is on the parents' end, on the adults' end. Go online, educate yourself, find out what are the signs and symptoms, the telltale signs of children who have been either physically or sexually abused, and limit once you know those signs, if anything is active, if you suspect anything is active, report it to their school or a social worker, and do that in a sensitive way. Don't do it with anger, because that does not help the child. And you don't even need to approach the child about it, because that could cause them to clam up before a professional is able to address them using psychology. The second thing is know the signs, so that if you have a child, and this is whether you're a parent, whether you're a godparent, or just a friend of somebody who has kids who you adore, make sure that when that child is in your custody and you're in control of their time and who they spend time with, at ages where that's appropriate, just limit their exposure to those children, because those children could do things to them. And it's not necessarily their fault. It's just that their brains have been damaged and activated too early sexually, and they're trying to figure it out. And they don't know how to relate to people anymore themselves. So what they do is they relate to other children by harassing them the way they've been harassed and abused. It's very sad. So that's what happened to me. It was a cousin, and he manipulated me into it after I said no the first time. So for any adult who might be in a situation where you think somebody is expressing, or for certain they're expressing unwanted attention, just keep saying no and report it to whoever your supervisor is. Don't ever feel, especially if you're female, don't ever feel like you have to say yes. We're kind of conditioned to give yeses all the time as women. And that's a good starting point for decluttering your mind as a woman, is to learn that you can say no. And it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to learn to say no in your life. It's going to take practice. That's what I did. I would go outside and I would say no to the wind. I'd say no. And I'd get an image of a toddler. You know how they say no so naturally. And I think that's a good stage to go through as a human being. And we very quickly train it out of them, right? But a little bit of that intact, the rebel being intact, like, ladies, your Princess Leia, your Princess Diana coming out in you is important. It's very important, because only she can become a queen. And without those no's, you can't get where you want to be in life. It's not about the yeses. It's about the no's. Yeah. And then you get to the top of your mountain and you find the yes you want. It's pretty amazing.
Thank you for that. Now,
Sure.
before we get into your coaching, what you do now, when the incident happened to you, how did you recover? What did you do? Again, I am asking this question for the interest of those who might not have had the chance to avoid the situation, but it happened to them, and this moment is yet you don't know what to do. So, what do
Yeah.
you do for yourself to be able to heal yourself from the situation?
Well, I would like to start by saying it took a long time to find the right help. And it took a long time to voice what I needed because this kind of abuse shuts down your voice. Um, Eventually, what I did was something called somatic work. And even before I knew that that's what I was doing, I was becoming comfortable with touch again because touch to me meant danger. I had fibromyalgia really badly. So for some people, fibromyalgia is caused by trauma. For some people, they just need more nutrients and it goes away. For me, touch literally hurt. It would semi burn sometimes. It would sting if somebody tried to if like when I was a little baby, and this was even when I was a baby before any of the sexual trauma happened. So I must have already had something in my genes or in my family lineage or something. But my mom said that I wouldn't settle in her arms. I would only fall asleep once she had set me down. And then it got worse through the years. I had to learn that once I learned that touch could be safe, it could be comfortable, it's the way it's supposed to be, that it could be platonic and nobody meant you harm. Because if somebody even just came to like brush something off my face or touch my shoulder, I'd flinch. Like I'd noticeably flinch. So that's like PTSD living in your cells, and your brain is just on fire, worrying all the time. So first I learned that I was mentally safe with myself. Once I started being able to assert what I needed and wanted through a term called assertive communication, you get your voice back because you can say no, or you can say, can you make an adjustment for me? Without the expectation that it's always going to happen, but you get to build a partnership with whoever you're talking to, and your relationships just get 100 times better. And also people like knowing what's going on with you, how are you feeling, or why did you react that way? Because I was super in my shell. So people who loved me, love it now because I'll tell them I'm feeling nervous or I'm not sure if I can handle this, and they can help me out. And it's wonderful to receive that, and it's wonderful for them to give it, and it creates a stronger bond. That led me, the mental part, feeling safe with myself and asserting my needs and wants, led me to eventually have more confidence and start feeling more confident in my body, which is the somatics, like reconnecting to touch. Oh, this feels really good. My hand is cold. I like the way it feels on my forehead. Like simple stuff like that. It gets you out of your monkey mind, as they say in meditation traditions, and it gets you connected to your little inner cute like cartoon Buddha who's just happy and at home, and that's what we all need more of. So we've all had just a taste of that here and there. Like for me, it's eating ice cream does that for me. And I ate some before this to calm down. Yeah, because I was nervously excited. And so yes, today it was vanilla bean. Oh my gosh, it's so good. So those are the methods: mind and the body, and ice cream. Claro que sí. Ice cream.
All right, that's good. How did you get into holistic coaching? That is important for me because now you pass through an experience. Now you are in another side of the situation where you are happy people. No, that is important. No,
Yeah.
that is why I was saying before that we don't just come and start asking, "Hey, what do you do? What do you do?" No, no. First of all, who are you? Where are you coming from? Now we are in the
Mhm.
position where we talk about what you do. How did you get into coaching?
Oh, well, I needed an income. And I was homeless for about, I think it was about 10 days in April recently. There was a very unfortunate situation that happened with a roommate. It was violent on their end, and I needed to get out the same day. And um, eventually I connected with a family member that I'm now living with, who's safe and loves me, and we're very close. It's my mom. And she's helping me stay in a hotel. And then the government has some good shelters that you have to apply for, and you wait to hear if you've gotten in or not. So maybe everybody can send me some good Muju. I don't know, mine the happy intentions, because I'm really hoping to get into this one shelter that sounds amazing. And I had a decision. What kind of work do I get into? And I was really just on LinkedIn and having a ton of fun. And at one point I decided to meet with a virtual assistant. This is before I had even thought about coaching. And she shared a very personal story with me, which I won't share here. Privacy is of the utmost importance to me. But she was surprised at how I could relate without having had any of the same experiences that she had had in life. And then at the end of it, she was very insistent with me. And she goes, "Chloë, you are a coach." I was like, "No, I mean, thank you. I'm so glad you feel better." But and she's like, "No." She's like, "I feel much better." And you are a coach. And she had to say it about 3 times before I was like, "Oh, okay, I get it in here." And it's still a surreal moment for me to think about that memory, because she really launched me on a new path. And we didn't even end up working together on the project I was thinking about pursuing. And it gave me so much confidence. And then I realized that people I didn't even know on Instagram and on LinkedIn would reach out to me, sometimes without even a chat first, and simply just drop me a line and be like, "Would you be willing to review this project I'm working on?" And I'd give them feedback, and they always seemed to find it. No, they all they found it beneficial. And it was a musician who I actually think has a ton of potential. I really like his work, and a writer. So then I realized, oh, I'm connecting with artists as well. And then I love science, but I probably can't tell you how to run your chemistry lab, right? I'm not qualified to do that. But and then it was a matter of committing to myself and saying, "Do you really think you can do this, Chloë? Do you think you have something to offer people? Can you be there for them consistently? And what do you need to do so that you don't burn out?" And that's when I realized I really wanted to do this, and that I believed, not just knew cognitively, um, from examples in my life, but where I believed and knew in my heart that I could do this.
All right, that's interesting. You know in your heart that you can do this. Of course, that means you are going to
Yeah.
do it with all your heart, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, Obehi.
All right. Now, when people come to you, okay, now explain to me, when people come to you, what do they really want, and what do you do for them so that they can be better?
Sure. Okay. So I'm excited to share this because I really wanted to develop an easy to understand framework and program. And as in my story that the audience heard earlier, or maybe audience is kind of a password, maybe something more intentional, like your listeners. So what I wanted to, what I prepared to share with your listeners today, who are, for I guess this hour, my listeners as well, is that everything starts with learning how to self-support yourself. And it's really important to get that internal pillar of strength so that you can then connect to a community you admire. But like attracts like. So if you want to feel comfortable in a community you admire instead of like a fish out of water, you have to deal with your insecurities and your clutter and your static and your debris first. So once you learn how to self-support, you can learn how to connect to a community, which we've all been very isolated recently, and it does us a ton of good to have that connection. It's the best. It's like honey. And then you start getting feedback, wonderful, positive feedback, and you start seeing yourself through other people's eyes, but in a way that you're not your ego isn't getting in the way, right? And you can self-adjust. And what do I mean by that? People's feedback isn't going to cause you to think you're amazing, and it's not going to cause you to think, oh my God, I'm a terrible human being, right? You're going to be able to hear people's feedback and make decisions about how you feel about it and what you want to let in and what you want to let out, because your self-esteem has been built up and you know your worth. And once those things are in place, so those two things, because this is a triangulated approach, a triangle is the strongest shape in nature, I believe, if I've got that correct. That would be a cool conversation to have at the bottom of this in comments. Then you can connect to your universal given gift or purpose. And I believe firmly, I'm a firm believer in this, that every personality has a purpose. So you were born with a personality, your circumstances shaped that personality, you did recovery work to find a new personality, and now you're going to be constantly evolving. And then every personality has a purpose. Therefore, you have a purpose in life, and it's essential. You are essential. So those are the beliefs I've come to and what's worked for me. And I believe it will work for others. I'm confident it will work for others.
All right. Now, the people that come to you, that ask for your help as a coach, what kind of things do they complain about often? Sort of gauge what is the problem out there that you are resolving.
Okay, so here's an honesty moment. I am starting out as a coach. And so what I am expecting from people is wanting to start on work hurdles, needing a solution for a project. And then once they're comfortable with me, moving into more personal details, probably how their personal life is affecting their work, what they want out of work truly, like what is their deepest desire, and where are the gaps in their life? Where are the areas in their life where they feel unfulfilled, and what can they do about it? Because they're probably feeling like they're lost. They probably feel like they're floating out at sea and there's no resources. And that's one of the worst feelings in the world. And the truth is that there's abundance when we learn how to accept personal responsibility, and we also learn to accept what we don't have responsibility and control over. And you can really turn on a thriving mechanism in your brain, and physiologically that follows. So I'm expecting that a lot of professionals are putting on a brave face and they're fatigued and exhausted all day, right? Like that's why coffee is so important in the morning. That's why weekends are so critical. Even if you're just sleeping on the weekends, even if you're just catching up on chores, I know it can feel like you're living a non-life when it's work and then the weekend is just sleep and chores, but at least you're getting through. And then then there's hope on the other side, and I can help you start to see the hope. And then you can start to take steps, and then eventually you'll feel the hope, and it'll just build and build into this joyous spiral, good spiral. We want a good spiral. Life is momentum, right?
Up and down. If you're going to see the river, the stream, no, it's not just one line.
Yeah.
It's up and down, up and down, up and down, up. Uh,
Frequency.
yeah,
Yes.
exactly. And if you also go to the mountain fold, for
Mm,
example, it is not just on the flat land. Otherwise, how can you climb to the mountain? The mountain slowly go up. You get to the pinnacle, to the top.
yeah.
So I agree with what you're saying.
Thank
All
you.
right.
And
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Say something.
Oh, well, it makes me think of the Dogon in West Africa because their ancient traditions and physics are just outstanding. I mean, the quality of science that these ancients were working in was extraordinary, and they have their symbol for frequency is like this, right? A little triangle, a little triangle, little triangle, little triangle. And physicists actually study. There's some physicists who actually study the Dogon symbols because they're so profound. They understood time. They understood cause. They looked at the world through a spiritual, holistic lens. And so when you were talking about the mountains, it made me think of that. And then, of course, there was this exchange between the Dogon and I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly, and the Egyptians. And so this is the Dogon people in West Africa. And they still have elders who hold on to the traditions. And now there are some universities that are starting to help them preserve this culture, which is so amazing. And I hope that work gets to continue because it's it is such a special tradition. And I think it's integral to the world I want to see happening for all of us.
Yeah, yeah. That's true. That's true. All right. Now, going back to the experiences that you have had as a child, growing up, is there any way that might have sort of influenced your coaching decision or being a coach or your approach to coaching today?
Oh yeah. It's why I would never bring up sexual abuse first. Never in a million years. If that individual wants to bring it up, if they want to go there with me, that's their choice. I don't have any degrees in psychology, although I will be pursuing that in the future, hopefully the near future. I can't offer psychological professional advice or counseling, and I wouldn't want to cause any harm. Um, I'm never going to cause harm coming from my own life experience and you taking that as a sovereign adult who can process it. But it should be their decision if they want to talk to me about that. If they want to talk to a cognitive behavioral therapist, they want to start out with a family member, as long as it's a very trusted family member who's not going to leak your confidence, who's not going to tell anyone else. And, for me, it was a repressed memory that brought that event that happened to me back. And so that in itself is traumatic, remembering. And so, you need to make sure that the person you divulge this to deserves it, and would be honored that you told them. I mean, it really is that kind of a thing. It's that important.
How do you approach your coaching? What kind of technique do you need to use to be able to achieve success in it? Do you need to undergo some training? Do you need some instrument? Do you need a kind of strategy? Help me understand that part.
Sure. So that is the strategy and triangulated program I mentioned. And everyone's going to move through that at their own pace. Because primarily what I do is I discover with you, I assess what your needs are. And I can sense through someone's body language where how much trauma they may or may have not absorbed it. It can be very obvious. If you're worrying right now, oh my God, I present a certain way at work on purpose. I don't want people to know that I'm stressing out or that I have panic attacks in the bathroom or that I get claustrophobic in the elevator. Don't worry. They probably don't know. but because of my training in life and my background, and I was like this as a little girl, I could just sense things about people, uncanny things. But that's a gift, and it's non-invasive in this context because I can use it to benefit you in your life. And so this is the visual. Let's see how it looks on camera. Ooh. Oh, it's a little blurry, but yeah. So what it means is that we're starting out. I like to think always moving to the left. It's better for my brain. Is we're starting out as individuals. So we come out of our mamas, and the cord at some point is separated. So we were connected, and now we're this individual, and we're going to need support from her, and she's going to need support from a community. So we're all interconnected, and at the same time, we're all individuals. So how do we learn to live that way? Well, first, we have to build ourselves up as individuals. And sometimes trauma gets in the way of that. Sometimes the way we were raised and beliefs get in the way of that. Sometimes our parents couldn't give us that gift because they were never given that gift. They weren't shown how to use their sovereign voice. So I help you learn how to do that. I help you learn how to do that through assertive communication. If you're somebody who enjoys exercises, I can give you exercises, or it can be all in session work, and you get to leave the session and forget about it. And the reason I say that is some people are going to be so invested in what they do or invested in family time that they need the practice, the quality practice, to happen in session. So those are the two starting options. And then if you're still happy with me as your coach, because that's important, and you're still finding that you're learning a lot from me, we move into I'm feeling happy as an individual, I'm feeling more self-aligned, and now I would like to align with community. So that's a symbol that talks about integration, complete balanced integration. And you're talking about the balanced cross, like they use in indigenous populations, sovereign nations used in the Southwest. So then you learn how to align to a community, which can be complicated and wonderful and scary if you haven't done it in a while, as it was for me. And I think you'll find that you just start to sprout and blossom, and kind of the community finds you. And it just turns into this beautiful garden of people you didn't know existed. And from there, you've got these two wonderful, like almost perpetual motion dynamics going on of having learned to accept yourself, having learned how to accept other people. It comes together, and you seem to then find your inner purpose. So this is what I found true in my life. This is what I find true when I talk to other survivors. And I've been talking to a lot lately, thanks to LinkedIn, Bumble Business, and just I talk more to people when I'm out. And I'm going to volunteer at a local nature center. And I just meet wonderful people who have decided they want to enjoy life and they want to get out of their own way. And they learned how to do it.
Which are these type of people that should work with you? Who should benefit more from the service that you are rendering in your coaching? You want to say anything about that?
I do. So my brain at first went everyone. But if we narrow that down and we get realistic about that, it's people who are interested in undergoing a recovery process or have undergone that process and are currently wondering what's next for them. So that's a lot of different kind of professionals in different stages of their careers and life. And really, it's just being a human being. So anyone who hears this and is interested, maybe check out my LinkedIn page. I'm going to have an active website soon called whitelotusstudio.online. That can give you more of an idea about who I am and what I do, give you more time to familiarize. And if you're still feeling drawn then you might very well be a client for me. And we'll have a chat around that. We can schedule a chat or messaging, whatever your preference is, and we'll just figure out if it's a fit, and we'll go from there.
That's interesting. All right, now use this few seconds to promote yourself, Chloë. Tell people how they can reach you. So at least they should benefit from the service that you are rendering. That is fine.
Okay, yes. So this is a new skill, self-promotion. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on several social media platforms, including YouTube, likey.com, vimeo.com, and there's even one more. What is it? I was just reviewing it today, but there is one more, and Instagram, of course. And I'm sure Obehi will provide some links. Yeah.
Oh, sure, definitely. That's why we're here.
Right.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I appreciate it. Is there any other thing you would like to add to conclude the conversation? Maybe a message or a reflection?
Just, I hope everybody can have a great day. And if a great day is not possible, an okay day. And one of my favorite business ethos is it says on my page, we make today 1% better for an exponentially better tomorrow. And I truly believe that that's how healing works and happens. And so there's quite a payoff at the end, and it's surprisingly reassuring to me. I hope it will be to others.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. If you enjoy this podcast, make sure you subscribe so you never miss any of our future episodes. Rate and review Obehi Podcast and share with your friends who might need it. I remain Obehi Ewanfo. Thank you so much for listening, and talk to you in the next episode.